What is this trial really about, based on the evidence? It's about personal use drugs. That's it. That and a certain lifestyle, swingers. But the prosecution have used one of the most serious statutes on the book. They've turned threesomes and drugs into RICO, racketeering. I want to thank you for your service to our country. I'd love to speak to you for days, but it's a Friday, so I'll be efficient. I need to cover a lot of ground, but I'm going to focus on what matters most. Sean Combs. Sean is a self-made black entrepreneur. He built real businesses, so successful that others wanted to partner with him. But it was hard to be Sean Combs. How many witnesses told you that they were moved by him? His assistants, they were moved. They said it was like Harvard Business School. He pushed them hard. Did they always like him? No. But did they love him? Yes. Even the ones suing him. Mia, I'm not calling her that. It's actually not her name. I'll call her the witness who testified as Mia. Remember Derek Ferguson from the Bronx? He told you that there weren't very many people hiring people like him. People from the Bronx. There was something real about these businesses. The hard parts of life, the real things. Those are the ones people remember. These people grew with Combs. It was real diversity. DEI? Combs was doing that at 24 years old. But the prosecution calls his businesses racketeering. That's their fake trial. And what happens? He gets arrested. They destroy his property. They send in the special response team, clandestine, no cameras allowed. They run rampant in his properties. His kids were there. 6 of them are sitting here in the second row. The 7th is an infant. That's who he is, the man who takes care of people. Jane came here, testified against him, and today she lives in a house that he still pays for. And what'd they find? Boxes of Astroglide? Taken off the streets. Baby oil? Taken off the streets. America's safer now. 5 Valium pills? That's their evidence? And when they did that kind of work, they didn't even photograph it. So what do? They wrap yellow crime scene tape, figuratively, around his bedroom, around all the hotels with his girlfriends. That's a lot of crime scene tape. The crime scene is his private sex life. No one ever called 911. Instead, they called civil plaintiff lawyers. This case is about money. Cassie Ventura sued Sean Combs for $30 million because he has $30 million. No money, no civil suit. No civil suit, no criminal case. This case is about 5 minutes. It's about love. Love has been said over 800 times during this trial. Look, the domestic violence, we own it. We didn't ask Miss Ventura about being hit, kicked, or dragged. We didn't cross Jane on that either. But domestic violence isn't being charged. If it were, he would have pled guilty to that because he did that. But racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, kidnapping, bribery, he didn't do that. Cassie Ventura said that this was about domestic violence. She made an Instagram post thanking people for their love and support. She could have said it was about sex trafficking, but she didn't. So believe her, believe Cassie, when she says this was about domestic violence. Look at their relationship and you'll see everything racketeering is not. I'm not going to go through all the texts or the charts, but I'm going to tell you the story of this case. They fell in love. Cassie had a boyfriend who was 10 years older. They were in a 3-year relationship. And then she met Combs and they were off to the races. The first time they made love, it was on a boat. It was an intense relationship. It was 11 years long. Cassie is a smart woman. She won. She got $30 million and he's sitting in jail. You see these U.S. Marshals standing behind him. Cassie won 100-0, and they'll tell you she's the victim. It's a modern love story with modern problems. He has 6 kids. Their relationship was based on love. Cassie admitted that she was young and insanely jealous. If you ever don't want to go home during deliberations, just read their breakup texts. You'll cry. They were selfless with each other. But their relationship had an original sin, Gina. Gina wouldn't come here to testify, but she's out there. And then Kim Porter passed away, and Combs did what he did. And that was Cassie's last straw. So she made a choice, and she left. And guess what happened? Nothing. She always could have left. Pick a message from 2018. These two loved each other. If racketeering conspiracy had an opposite, it was this relationship. They were their best selves sexually. And there were times Combs was proud. They found each other in sex. It's a beautiful thing. You won't find a single text where she says, I didn't like that, in their 11-year relationship. The issue was jealousy of other women. But they were in sync sexually. They were swingers. Cassie's a woman who loves sex. It's beautiful. She's unafraid. Let's talk about Kid Cudi. He came here, and I'm not trying to judge, but he said Cassie played me. And she did. She played them both. And not everyone can do that. She lied to Combs, and she had a relationship with another singer right under his nose. She wasn't afraid of him. She said she was keeping it gangster, lying to both. Cassie got a burner phone, finally, something resembling racketeering. But she got it. And she never said anything to this about anyone. And now racketeering? The judge is going to talk to you about racketeering later, but first, in 2004, let's talk about kidnapping. Capricorn Clark. She told you, I wanted my life back. So Clark's parents, no disrespect, but they passed when they were young. So she moved to the Bronx and she met Combs. She said it was super platonic. Really? She admitted having the biggest crush on him, and she misused their chemistry. If she was kidnapped, why go back to work for him? She said she was getting her nails done with Mike B when they got a call saying, lock everyone in. That's when she was given the lie detector test. She and Mike B passed the lie detector test. So kidnapped? She went home every day. She wasn't kept in that abandoned building. Paulie drove her home every day. Door-to-door kidnapping? The SDNY calls that kidnapping? It's absurd. You, the jury, you've been here every day, and you go home every day and then come back. Are you kidnapped? No. At the time, Combs was filming A Raisin in the Sun, and he was running the Vote or Die campaign. He didn't care about this, so why call it kidnapping? Clark even left Combs' business for a year, and when she needed more money, she asked him for a job and she came back. December 22nd, 2011. The prosecution says Combs kidnapped Capricorn to go confront Cudi. Capricorn said Combs had a gun. Why bring a gun to kidnap Capricorn? She would have done anything for him. There was no need for a gun. There was no gun. Cudi never said Capricorn mentioned a gun because there wasn't one. The police report, it mentions trespassing, but no gun. So Capricorn's story falls apart. And the car chase she mentions, there wasn't one. Cudi said he, quote, pulled up next to the Escalade. The judge is going to tell you, disregard witnesses that you don't find credible. So you need to decide. Everything is possible with Capricorn Clark. She said she wanted to run away from the Escalade, but she didn't because she was afraid of mountain lions. Mountain lions? Combs kidnapped her with a gun, but she was afraid of mountain lions? She doesn't want to say that she went voluntarily. Look, Combs isn't a coward. He was ready to fight. At the risk of sounding sexist, he's a man. He fights. The Porsche? Yeah, a Hollywood Hills 8 a.m. John Wayne fight. That's not his style, and there was no evidence tying him to that. Burning a car? That's cowardly. Combs is a man. He would fight. The Molotov cocktail? There was a glove. Where is the glove? This investigation stunk. There were 2 fingerprints. Where are the fingerprints? There was DNA consistent with a female contributor. If it was Combs, he would say so. But this investigation stunk. And you're supposed to decide his fate on this? Now let's talk about Mia, or the witness referred to as Mia. She testified she was broke. Did they tell you that? She loved working for Combs. This wasn't forced labor. Remember the birthday video? She was bubbly, energetic, and popping. That was her real self. So it's safe to conclude that she acted here in the courtroom. And if Combs thought anything improper had happened, do you think he would have threatened to tell Cassie? Like if it was not consensual? She claims it wasn't consensual, but that's simply not true. There was never any unwanted sexual conduct. Mia wasn't just a platonic employee. Look at these pictures. Look at the slogans. They were effusive together. This wasn't just a job for her. Look at this scrapbook. Happy 45th, Puff. From 1991 to 1999. Hope this stirs up some nostalgia. That's love. You can't fake that. Combs gave these people a home. Look at this picture. It's pure joy. KK, D-Rock, Fahim. He created a special place and he moved people. And when Mia was fired, she said, my life is over. She didn't want to leave. Forced labor? No. She didn't want to leave. What about drug distribution? The U.S. says personal use is a distraction. But Brendan Paul admitted that the drugs were for his personal use. Remember when he forgot to remove the cocaine from his bag? He got a lawyer and the charges were dismissed. Combs wasn't selling drugs. He got them himself. Cassie called Combs a drug addict. But where was he selling these drugs? Was he selling Xanax? He had them. They were in his house, but they were for personal use. It wasn't a business to distribute Xanax. No. David James in Saint-Tropez, he asked for an 8-ball of cocaine and then he hid it from Combs. Why? Because it wasn't for Combs. You have to remember, this is a creative field. Creatives have creative behavior. It's drug use. It's not racketeering. And Cassie, sex trafficking your girlfriend? That only applies to if you're forcing prostitution. Cassie never made any money from this. And Jane, look at her texts. And Cassie's, look at theirs. There was nothing. These people were in love. Look, relationships evolve. My wife's from LA and first I hated it, but now I love it. That happens. Cassie, she was beautiful and sexy. She could have dated anyone. In fact, she dated Michael B. Jordan. She's not messing around. And she's not clutching her pearls right now. She shared intimacy with a man who she loved. And you come to love that. She even said that she encountered what others want. If she liked hotel night number 75, does that make hotel night number 76 sex trafficking? So 0 to 60. She never told him no. But immediately it's sex trafficking after she just said she enjoyed it. When Daniel Phillip was cross-examined, you saw the texts. Combs asked, "Are you horny?" She said yes, and then she shared a whole bunch of fantasies. That was their lifestyle. Cassie wrote, "My pussy is so hot." They were in this together. The Intercontinental video. You saw it. Nothing was hidden. But Cassie says in the video, "Go back to the fucking room." 5 days later, he texts her, "I'm sorry," and she replies, "LOL. I was listening to Sorry." The Justin Bieber song. They're over it at that point. Cassie texts about drugs, and she's concerned, but that's it. Like, not an issue. They were in this together. Cassie admitted that sometimes she hit him first, but they were in this together. Now she says it was rape. He was never charged for that. She said it happened, but she gave no details. Maybe it didn't happen. Cassie later said, "I told myself I didn't want anything to happen, but I'm not tripping on it." She FaceTimed her husband. Remember, she used the boogie bat phone. Combs texted, "You act brokenhearted. Stop living your lie." Cassie said, "I enjoyed last night," but later she called it rape. There's no evidence of rape. They had consensual sex right after. I have to defend this even though it's not charged. Cassie said the most painful thing was his shame. Jane, she said the same thing. Her partner trusted her, but wanted to be his escape. Jane became very vulnerable. She told us she was jealous of young Miami's yacht trip. But that's not sex trafficking. That's just people in love. Cassie claims she wasn't promoted, but Capricorn Clark said Cassie got the lion's share of the deals. Of all the devices that were found, they were damaged. But were they ever opened by the experts? The videos, we've seen them, they're beautiful. Usher is playing music. These videos were never meant to be seen. Combs wasn't releasing them, even though he said he might. The escorts, the Punisher, she was naive. Homemade porn, that's common. And Jane, she loved Combs. Jane said that she was comfortable. She knows who fathered her child and who she was with. The government isolates September 2023 as a moment of jealousy over the yacht trip with young Miami. You remember Jane said she disliked a guy, one of the escorts. She said he smelled bad, so she sent him back. They paid him anyway. No sex even happened, but they paid him for his time. That's what happened. Jane wanted it. She called Cabral. She liked him. Do you remember at the sobriety party? She was angry over Gina, but she agreed to go. She agreed. The house, Jane's lawyer, terrible. Combs paid for a child that wasn't his. They watched porn together. Jane got him a mobile TV to watch porn together, to distract him. The photos you saw, Combs with wine and strawberries, big pores, nothing fancy, but 30 minutes later, an altercation and she calls him a pedophile. Jane said doors were kicked in, but there was no hitting. Texts from Jonathan Perez, it was all jealousy. The police came. They said everything was, quote, all good. So Jane says she changed her dress, hid for 2 hours, comes back, Combs is in the street, no violence. Then she says she was hit, and then she was hauled off. She said she wasn't dragged. Then she finds injuries to document. This is implausible. Now let's talk about Anton. In Vegas, Anton, a prominent rapper, Jane showed him her breasts. It was like a spring break vibe, a flash. The rapper, he asked about swinger lifestyle, so Jane gave him Cabral's number. Anton was at her house by coincidence? Anton is a porn star and Jane? She knows that there's an investigation. She knows that her story is nonsense. Anton only had oral sex with her. Her story is full of holes. Maybe she wanted leverage. Extreme violence, she says. No plausibility. You were chosen for this jury. Only 2 escorts testified. Neither admitted prostitution. They were paid for their time. That's legal. Porn actors are paid to have sex. That's legal. Combs thought this was legal. Racketeering? An enterprise needs organization. Only Combs was charged. No testimony of co-conspirators. So no racketeering. Maybe conspiracy, but no co-conspirators? KK? She was helpful. She was an assistant, but she wasn't a criminal. No evidence of anyone else involved. Guns, not charged. Suge Knight, not charged. Don Richard, not charged. The government admits that there were no guns in any videos, but they insinuate wrongdoing. And I have to say this, but Cassie, she asked to be urinated on. So ask yourself, can you trust these prosecutors? It takes courage to acquit, but the evidence shows the government targeted Combs. America is great because between the citizens and the government sits a jury. This is your house. Have the courage. Acquit Sean Combs on all counts and let him go home to his family. Thank you.